Your dreams are bigger, bolder, and more badass than the life you're living now, but something just keeps getting in the way. Join certified coach and former therapist Diane Wingert for the Driven Woman podcast. She'll show you how to get rid of whatever is holding you back so you can stop spinning your wheels and up-level your life. Get ready to hop in and buckle up. This is the Driven Woman podcast, and we're heading for the fast lane.
Well, hey, Driven Woman. You know, we have all heard the stories of the woman who gave her boss the finger, strode out of that job in her clickety-clack high heels, and then launched a six-figure online business virtually overnight. Now, you and I know this is not only a fairy tale, like for real. How many of us could go for who knows how long without an income stream as a first-time entrepreneur? Unless you're an heiress, married money, or are living in your car on the dollar menu and free Wi-Fi at McDonald's, the side hustle route just makes so much more sense. Today's guest on The Driven Woman is a very impressive young woman named Vanessa Zamy. She is a keynote speaker, a best-selling author, and a business consultant who helps full-time employees transition to entrepreneurship by developing their business on the side while still employed. Her motto, keep it simple and keep it moving. Vanessa's background includes a management science engineering degree from Stanford University and strategic leadership roles at Fortune 500 companies. If you've ever heard the expression, if you want something done, give it to a busy person, and I say, give it to a busy woman, they must have been thinking of Vanessa. She knows a thing or two about the side hustle, and she's here today to drop some wisdom on us. If you are an aspiring entrepreneur, this one's for you. Well, as promised, I have a very, very exciting interview for you guys to listen to today because although many of you are already full-time entrepreneurs and have been so for a while, some of you are building up your something on the side and are still trying to make it your main gig. So today I am joined by Vanessa Zamy, whose deal is just what we're talking about, what I sometimes call the side hustle to full-time entrepreneur. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Vanessa is not only a coach and consultant for side hustle entrepreneurs who are making it into their full-time gig. She is also a best-selling author and a speaker. So this girl knows what she's talking about. We were talking briefly in the pre-chat about how you came to be an entrepreneur. And I think it's really a fascinating story because there's so many myths about entrepreneurship. Oh, there are born entrepreneurs, and if you're not a born entrepreneur, forget about it. Or you have to be born into an entrepreneurial family, or you have to be born into a family that teaches you those things, or at least parents that take risks. But that's not your story at all.
It is not, no. For me, I definitely wasn't any of those things. So I did not do a lemonade stand. I was not the one, making the cash on the side with like Girl Scout things. Like I literally just fell into entrepreneurship later on in life. It didn't even enter my vocabulary until like later on in life. Like that is, my mother is low income, nurse, hourly wages. Well, nurse's aide, hourly wages. Mm-hmm. We lived in Brooklyn, New York, and Boston, Massachusetts. I lived a lovely public school life. And in terms of, that was my experience. And then I went on to college. I was going to be a doctor, the whole situation. I then pivoted to business and corporate America. And fast forward a couple of years later, I was able to, one of my sort of sponsors in the office, one of my, old boys club person, essentially, he then recommended to me that I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And when I read that book, that is the book that changed my whole trajectory in mind. And the reason why that book did is at the time that I read that book, I was at the place in corporate America that, maybe some of you have been in or are right now. I don't know. But essentially, it was a place where I was sort of just sick and tired of the politics. I was sick and tired of just being misunderstood, of feeling, of just not belonging, of like feeling like I had to pretend to be something. Then once I pretended, it still didn't fit in. And then it was just like, what? And so at that point, it was just, and I would tell my friends, and they were saying, yeah, this is how it's supposed to be. That's just it. Like they were experiencing the same thing, but no one was doing anything really to solve it. And
they were just trying to tell you that was normal. Like, that's corporate life. You feel like ass, and you just you
doing it for like 40 years, and like
that sounds like sign me up, right?
Yes, and I remember thinking to myself, like, wait, I got to do this for another how much? Wait, and that's assuming retirement even stays the same age. Wait, and that's the point where I was when I got the recommendation to read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And when I read that book, it just changed my whole thinking on just not even just money, but just the idea of what else is possible and how else you can live life. The fact that, I was on this like the employee, quadrant, so to speak, but there was like this other quadrant or quadrants that centered around entrepreneurship, right? And centered around owning a business. And these are, or multiple businesses. That's where I'm trying to go. But essentially these quadrants then, is what really allows you to spread all your wealth and joy with other people and create the opportunity and retire my mother and buy a house for her. And and just those things, or just travel without worried about, okay, well, the budget says this, but then the budget says that. And then, and it just allows that freedom. Right. And also without having to deal with any terrible people and that you don't want to deal with, because you can just not do business with them.
If you have a client that you hate, you can fire them. But if you have a boss that you hate, most of the time, they fire you, or you just end up complaining to your friends every Friday over happy hour, and everybody just sucks it up. And I think what's one of the things that's fascinating to me about you, Vanessa, is that there's a lot of people who, let's face it, we don't know what we don't know. That applies to everybody. And when you don't know about entrepreneurship, when all you know is you do your best to get a job, you hope it's a good job, you hope that they will reward you over time with a little bump in your pay, and maybe you'll get promoted, maybe not. But if you have the so-called job security with benefits, that you have like hit the jackpot, that's as good as it gets, and you need to be grateful and just go the distance. Now, I think because we're all sort of socially conditioned to think of that as the ultimate. I mean, people thought of that for, generations as the ultimate, that even if they had seen the message in a book like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like, wait a minute, being employee of the month is really not the ultimate. Like, there's a whole other way to support myself and to create value and independence and freedom and creativity. There's a whole lot of people who would get that message, Vanessa, and they would be like, yeah, I don't really see that happening for me. Or that would be nice, but I'm not that kind of person. Or I don't have the connections, or I don't have, and you just bypassed all the bullshit, all the excuses. You immediately recognize something you'd never heard about before as a better way and acted on it. Don't you think that makes you a little bit unusual when you compare yourself to the other people your age? Like, do you like really stand out from among your friend circle as being kind of the inspirational and aspirational one? Or are there more like you? Because if there are, I want to meet them.
So I do stick out in my friend circle. I guess I've always sticked out. And so even when we were in Brooklyn, New York, then moved to Boston, moved to California, all that jazz, I've always stuck out, and people have always, that's actually what inspired the book. But essentially people have always asked me, Vanessa, how do you do it? Like, how do you essentially, make stuff happen and get stuff done and like achieve the goals that you want to achieve, and just, and
just be really decisive. Right? You're very decisive. I think that's a big part of it. Yeah.
I am indeed. But I also have my indecisive moments, choosing between, cookies and cream ice cream or vanilla ice cream, essentially.
I say them both, okay, if that's the choice, have them both.
But essentially, yeah. And in terms of, when it comes to that mindset of, like I started my first job out of college, corporate job, was 2.5 times the salary my mother will ever make in her life. I was like, oh my God, I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful. Oh, thank you. Oh, yay. And 3 months later, I had a panic attack. I think it was a panic attack. It was the only first time I'd ever experienced this in life, where I literally was in bed, I was dreaming. And then there was a moment where I realized I was dreaming and I had to wake up. I just didn't want to wake up. I did not want to wake up. I was like, no, this is a dream, back in the dream. Like, I just did not want to wake up. And then it was like 4 a.m. I finally get out of bed. I go to the bathroom and I look at my bed and I was like, oh, and then it was just a whole situation. I still stay at that job though. It was for another 2 years.
What did you think it meant? Obviously that was like, here's another example, something you are experiencing for the first time. You don't know what it is. You don't know what it means, but you had to make some kind of sense of it. What did you think was happening?
I mean, essentially at the end of the day, it was the reason why I didn't want to wake up, because I didn't want to experience a real life. And what had happened was I had this idea of what, the job I was getting into was going to look like. And the thing that I do my research, informational interviews, even before, for like a year and a half. I read stories, I talked to people, all that stuff. And I still got to the place where 3 months into the job, I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. Like, what is this? Like, I don't want this. Like, what is going on right now? And
that's terrifying. That's terrifying. You follow all the advice. You do all the things. You're being the proverbial good girl, and wait a frickin' minute. It not only doesn't work, I'm having panic attacks in the middle of the night. This can't be normal.
I was literally like, this can't be normal. Like, I literally was just like, this is not, like, I'm confused. Like, I was just so confused. But I still stayed at the job because I was like, well, maybe, at the time I was working for a consulting company. And so a lot of consulting is all about projects and different projects. And so I was like, well, maybe it's just the project I'm working on. Maybe I need to switch teams. Maybe I need to switch industry. So I started, I ended up, I worked at that company for about 2 years. I ended up on like 8 different projects with 8 different teams. And at some point it was just like somebody had a team leader who was like 5 levels above me, who literally spoke to someone 2 levels above me about me. Like, what do you think about that, Vanessa? And I was like, I was an analyst. Like, I'm like, why are you like, what's this gossip girl, mean girl thing happening right now about an analyst? It was just like things that, this is not, like, something's trying to tell me something. Something is trying to tell me something. I don't know what. But it was just one of those things where thing after the thing. And I switched companies, 14% salary increase. Woo! Amazing. Mm-hmm. Amazing. It was like, okay.
Right? Great. You're leveling up.
You're leveling up. Yes. Great culture. Amazing. I was like, okay. I ended up switching, like moving to a different area in California where I just felt more comfortable. And then, and then at some point I had a terrible boss. But except in consulting,
you had what?
I had a terrible boss, awful boss, terrible boss. And except in consulting, when you switch projects, you don't switch projects when it comes to things that are consulting. And so there's some people just aren't meant to lead. Like I think he's a good person, but he just wasn't meant to lead other people. And it just wasn't in his rear view. Like, and why was he promoted? Debatable. But essentially he just wasn't meant to lead other people. And I was still in that job. It was rough. I was at HR office like 4 times. I was in HR office like 4 times, like trying to understand how could this be? Like, what is this life? Like, there must be a way I'm not communicating with him well. Like, what's going on? Like, I don't get it. And it was just thing after thing after thing. I was like, I still don't get what you're trying to tell me. Universe, I don't get it. Like, because then I realized, okay, I switched company. Ooh, then I got promoted. 20% salary increase. That was the whole situation.
So it's not like you weren't cutting it. I think this is.
I was making it.
Let's bust a myth right here, because I think what a lot of people think who don't really understand entrepreneurs, they think that an entrepreneur is somebody that can't hold a job because they're like unstable, or they're flighty, or they don't get along well with others, or they can't handle having an authority figure, or whatever it is. But a lot of times people who are entrepreneurial have really good ideas. They're decisive. They're quick starts. They want to take action. They can bring enormous contributions, but they find themselves in a corporate setting where none of that is welcome. And they end up feeling like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? You have a lot of energy. I imagine you have a lot of good ideas. And as soon as you have them, you want to act on them. And if you're not in an environment that sees that as an asset, you could find yourself wasting a whole lot of years trying to change the setting, when what actually needs to change is, like, you need to get into a whole different environment. But you kept getting promoted and more money. So, dude, this could have taken like decades instead of like a couple of years. Like, every time you made a move to try to make things better for yourself, you did make things better for yourself, just not enough, right?
Yeah, exactly. At some point, I was like, money can't buy happiness. And essentially, it was just, at some point, it was like, okay, there's something else. But I didn't know what else was else, right? All I had to know was, okay, this corporate America. It's like, well, I could go back to being a doctor maybe and go back to, and I was like, my mother hates her job, so I'm not going to be a nurse today. But she doesn't hate her job, she loves her job, but she's miserable. And so I was like, okay, well, that's not going to be a thing. And that's all I knew. It was like, okay, all right, well,
now what, right?
Well, yeah, we'll just see what happens. And there's things that, a lot of times also the people who are, building their business while doing their day job probably understand this, but that whole, I'm not that risky. I was not that, I was a risk averse person. I was kind of a risk averse person. So I wasn't just like, I'm just going to quit without a plan. That's just not me. And I'm a very strategic, intentional person. And so for me, it wasn't like, okay, but if I quit, then what I'm going to do? For me, I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. So I said, okay, I'm going to keep on doing and doing. I don't know what that means, but we're just going to keep doing it. And then at some point, essentially, when the Rich Dad Poor Dad book came into my life, I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. It's time to move forward. And I didn't quit immediately. I did build the business, Your Vision's Catalyst, named my consultant, Your Vision's Catalyst, where I work with entrepreneurs who are looking to grow their business, right? Looking to grow, I say, their profit-producing, purpose-driven business, even while doing it.
That's a lot of P's, Vanessa.
Yeah, a lot of P's. Yes, profit-producing, purpose-driven.
We'll link to it in the show notes so you won't have to memorize all those P's.
But essentially working with them to focus on fixing their hustle and ensuring that they are making their own dream and living their fulfillment and their purpose the best way that they can, so they can live their best life. Because, some people, the life working for someone else and going through that struggle is going to be enough for you. It probably isn't. If you hate your Mondays, it's probably not, but that's a whole nother episode to talk about that. But when it comes for those who are, doing your business while doing your day job, it doesn't have to be a struggle. Another myth, all these myths that we're debackling here, but another myth.
No, it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Have you ever met someone that wanted to work with you who is, that you had the thought, I just don't think entrepreneurship is for them. Like they want it, but I don't think they're going to be successful at it. No names, of course.
I don't believe so. No. Yeah, I have not met someone like that. And I don't believe that there is a person like that.
Well, that was my follow-up question. Yeah. Do you think, now, so let me be direct. Do you think anyone who wants to can become an entrepreneur?
I do. I actually do. And the reason I do, I think that even my mother in her, nearing her 60s, who's like, feeling the pain, the back pain and the struggles of, I feel like she can become an entrepreneur. And I believe that people who, like, anyone can be an entrepreneur. People who are 5, people who are 65, people who are 7. Like, I met this lovely, lovely couple, right? She's 66, he's 77. At the time that people are retiring, this time last year, they were signed up to do like a real estate investing meetup group. And so they attended that session, and they were at the stages where they were looking into investing into multifamily real estate. They never invested ever before in their life. They literally were just like retiring their jobs. They decided they're going to take on this whole new thing, real estate investing. A year later, they now have 4 properties under their belt. They just closed 60-unit property in Texas, which is a very demanding market, by the way, for those who do not know. And they're thriving, right? It's beautiful to see. And so anyone can be, they don't have real estate investors in their family either. They just like came in, we want to learn this. They decided to do it together, and voila, right? And so I believe anyone can be an entrepreneur. Anyone can start a business. It's just a matter of, whether or not you want to. And in this information age with these podcasts, the podcasts right here, with so much information out there, there's no reason why, it's not information that's going to keep you. It's not information.
No.
It's your mind. That's what your mind.
Indeed. And the truth is, there is no shortage of information, but information is not the same thing as transformation. And I think that I've moved from being an employee to being self-employed to being an entrepreneur. You have done the same. You've helped a lot of people do the same. And I think what people don't really understand is how much mindset work is really involved.
Yes.
They think that there are skills they need. They think there are strategies. That everybody wants the tips and tricks and tools and tactics because they think that stuff makes it sound easy and I just need to get these like hacks, like I'm going to get on the fast track kind of thing. But the truth is, it's your beliefs.
6 steps to $1 million.
Dude, 6 weeks to 6 figures. Like, just
6 weeks,
kill me. Like, I can't stand it. It reminds me of an interview that I did a few weeks back with Casey Jordan on toxic entrepreneurship, because I think there's a lot of people who are pimping that shit, who are saying, it's easy, it's fast, it's fun, follow me. And by the time you finish paying them off for that expertise, you're nowhere near your goal. And now you don't have the money to actually do the real thing. But if you think anybody can be an entrepreneur, it's a matter of like deciding and going for it. What do you think are the challenges of starting your business as a side hustle? Because it's a little bit different when you have to fit it into those extra hours that are not already devoted to your 9 to 5. You may only have evenings. You may only have weekends. You may only have every other week because you got joint custody. So what are the particular struggles that you help your clients with who are side hustle entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I would say 2 things is the efficiency of what they're doing and the effectiveness of what they're doing is really what it comes down to. Because, as you alluded to, you mentioned it, where you have a day job, you have 3 options for your business: morning, evenings, weekends. Those are your 3 options. That's really it, right? And so you either choose one of them, 2 out of 3 of them, or all 3 of them, right? But those are your options. And so now it's a matter of, but Vanessa, that means I only have 5 hours a week. Or, whereas someone else who's a full-time entrepreneur, who's also still struggling, by the way,
Indeed.
has 80 hours a week, right? And so you're saying to yourself, I only have 5 hours, OMG. And it's not that you only have 5 hours, right? There are people while I was doing my business, while having my day job, and I'm going online, all this stuff, I'm still sleeping 7 to 10 hours of sleep a night. There were people who are full-time entrepreneurs coming to me like, Vanessa, do you just have 26 hours in a day? How are you doing this? Full-time entrepreneurs asking me this question. Right. And so the biggest challenge that people have is, what are you doing? What and how of what they're doing. Right. So it's what you're doing and how you're doing it when it comes to your marketing, your sales, and the operations of your business. Right. And so what I help a lot of entrepreneurs with is fixing their hustle and ensuring that they are efficient and effective. They're making the most out of those 5 hours. Yes, you only have 5 hours. Great. So now I got to figure out.
Make them work for you.
Those 5 hours. Right. And the thing is that you can scroll through Facebook feed and just like and comment things. Or you can say to yourself, I'm going to scroll through the Facebook feed. Ooh, this person looks like a person who might be of interest to me. Let me start a conversation. Let me look at their profile. You can go on Clubhouse and just peruse and lurk around different rooms.
Hang out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or you can host a room yourself, right? There are just so many different ways of what you're doing and what you're doing and how you're doing it. And so it's a lot of just doing that for my clients, right? And helping them to see that, yes, you may have a, 2 4-year-olds running around, and you may have a demanding day job that's just like taking up what feels like most of your time. But you also have power to decide what and when and how you want to do things, right? And like, for example, the number one toxic habit that people have who have a day job.
I love it. Tell me.
They stay late after work. They stay late after work. That's number one toxic habit. At the moment you have decided to do your business, you already know. You already know. You may not admit it, but you already know that this job thing is not for you. You already know. You already know there's something else out there. You already know. The number one toxic habit you have is staying late after work. You're putting your time and energy that you have, the limited time and energy that you have, right, into someone else's time and energy, that was fun. That was cute when you didn't have anything of your own. That was cute, right? But now it's time you have a new baby. It's called your business. It's your new baby. It's called your business, right?
Are you going to be a neglectful parent? Or are you going to get home and take care of the baby?
There you go, right? And at the end of the day, it's you have that choice, right? You have that choice to decide what you're going to spend your time on and how you're going to spend your time on, right? And the number one toxic habit that I see a lot of entrepreneurs make is just staying late after work, right? And it can be intimidating, especially, when you've been through that struggle. And for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to come work 8 to 8:45. As soon as I realized that, you know what? And it wasn't even like, I didn't even have the business yet at that time. It was, I read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, and I realized there's another way of living life that's not this one. So instead of me putting all my energy towards this boss who is not really out to help me, I'm going to come into work between 8 and 8:45, and I will be on the 4:30 p.m. shuttle out the door. The laptop will stay in the office. I'm like, it can wait until 8 to 8:45 a.m. the next morning. And that's the decision that even before I even woke up with my business idea, that was a decision that I made because I already knew that it wasn't for me. Now, what did I do? When I got home at like 6 o'clock, I was just like lost and confused. But for me, it was just a practice and habit of it.
Well, I think you're saying a couple of things I want to make sure that people are getting because they're really, really important. The moment you decide to develop your side hustle, that has to become your number one priority. So you have to stop investing in the relationship you have with your day job because you're going to get a divorce from that job. Like you don't keep working on a relationship with someone you've already decided to divorce. That makes no sense at all. You do your due diligence, you show up for whatever your role is, but you have to change your habits. And I think
smile, you say hi, you say
you don't slack off. You don't work on your hustle at the job. That is unethical. It lacks integrity and it's bad karma. But if you set limits on yourself and if you act decisively and if you accept that you need to work with constraints, I have such a hard time selling some of my clients on the freedom that comes from constraint. When you actually say, don't tell me, well, I don't know how long it's going to take. I've never done before. It could take 2 hours. It could take 7 hours. No, this is the way you need to do it. Tell yourself it's going to take 1 hour and 45 minutes. Schedule that amount of time on your calendar. Yeah. Schedule something else you got to be doing right after that and make it fit the 1 hour and 45 minutes. Don't let it just keep creeping and creeping and creeping. It could take the rest of your life and you still won't be done with it. I think the fact that you are so decisive and you teach your clients to be decisive, it probably
keep it simple, they keep it moving. That's my motto.
Yes. And make it efficient and make it effective. If you don't have limits and constraints, it won't be either of those because it'll just keep spreading and you'll just keep fixing it and tweaking it and making it better. And it'll just never become, your baby won't grow up. It'll be in diapers for life.
It will. And there are a lot of people that actually remind me of some other people who might be listening who are just waiting for the right time. They haven't even started yet. They're just like, so they're just waiting for the right time.
We got to talk about that. Waiting for the right time.
It's waiting for the right time. They're just like, I'm waiting. I'm just waiting. It's not now. Not now. They said that 5 years ago. They said that last year. They're saying that right now. And here's the thing. There's never a right time. Like literally, it's like waiting for the right time to have a baby. One day you're just going to be pregnant. Like you just like, it's just, there's never.
You kind of have to call it.
There's never a right time, right? And you can sit here and try to make the right time happen, but the right time is whenever you thought of the idea. The right time is when you woke up and you realized there was something else for you in life. That's the right time. That's literally the right time. That's it, right? And you can sit here and say, oh, now's not the right time. I'm gonna wait until I finish up this thing here, then I'm gonna do this other thing, and then that'll be the right time. And then all of a sudden, that 3 months later, a death happens in the family. But now's not the right time. I'm gonna wait until, and it's just like, life will always happen. You cannot control life, but what you can control is yourself. You can't control life, but you can control yourself. So control yourself and tell yourself, you know what? I'm going to just go forth and do it. That's all you can do. That's literally all you can control is yourself. That's it.
Who taught you to be like this?
Life.
It's so, I got to tell you, girl, it is so refreshing. I love meeting such young women. I mean, this girl is 28 years old this week. It's such a beautiful thing. You are not brainwashed so much by all the messages that our culture tells us. You were smart enough to see it wasn't working for you, smart enough to realize you weren't the only one who needed to know, smart enough to start helping other people. And just imagine like you're pulling all those people out of what is most certainly not going to be a fulfilling life for them and inviting them to show up for themselves in a way that if they hadn't met you, they might never have done it. I mean, what a gift that is. You must absolutely love what you do.
I do. And actually recently, she reminds me of a coworker who she had joined the team and at the time that I was on the team. And now she's actually quit her job. Now she just told me, she was like, she finally like put in her notice, but she spent this whole time just being lost. And I could see it. And the thing is, as a coach, you want to help people, but obviously some people are not ready. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait till she asked me the question. And then sure enough, we were on a car ride to the beach together, and she like asked me the question. She was like, "Oh, so you help people with their life and stuff? Yeah, sometimes I've been feeling a little lost." And then I was like, you don't say. Okay. But essentially for her, she's early 30s, in her early 30s. But for her, she had been going down the path of, trying to figure out what to do in life. And she had been on this corporate, but other people told her to do the corporate cycle, right? Just like everyone else, probably listening here, corporate cycle. And she had been on that path. And then she was like trying to make it work, right? She was trying to make it work, which is why she kept on switching companies, switching jobs. Yeah. She was like, doesn't work, next.
Yep.
Right?
Must be the wrong one.
Must be the wrong one, right? And for her, now she's started on this journey. Now she's like going to go find her purpose. I already see her life flashing in front of my eyes. She's going to be one of my friends who's going to be like with a cabin in the woods somewhere. And then like she may come out into the world. Like I already see this. I already see her life. She's going to be traveling. I already see it, but she doesn't see it, but I see it. But essentially for her, it's, it's a beautiful thing in terms of the moment when she told me that she's going to, I was like, oh, okay, cool. And for her, I remember before that, she was even thinking about taking a job that was like an hourly wage, like talk about a salary cut. Talk about just in a manufacturer, like just like one of those, just no headspace. You just kind of put pieces together, you move it to the side type of jobs. And she told me that. I was like, is that connected to what you want to do? She's like, yeah, I like to do something with my hands. Then why not go forth and prosper with that? Right. But now essentially what she's chosen is to just like go free and like figure it out. But sometimes people need to do that. They need to leave the job and go figure it out. If you have the resources to do that, by all means. She only has like less than a month in savings. But I was like, you got me as a friend.
But then you better figure it out quick.
Yeah, you gotta figure it out quick. But yeah, but I know she will. I know she will. It'll be great. I already see
some people need that though, don't they? Yeah. I mean, I'm sure because you've worked with a variety of people, you know that some people are able to be like you, see the light, make the choice, and keep it moving. And other people, they can see it, they can move towards it, but when they start getting close to it, they get scared and they back up and then they decide they're not ready and then they like take a break and all that. And so I think it's kind of an individual thing, but I think you are probably someone who's really ideally suited to folks who are like ready to take action and see how far they can get quickly. Yeah. And that would probably be really, really fun for you too. So are you now full-time in entrepreneurship?
I am. Yeah. So I'm full-time in entrepreneurship and doing my business. Your business catalyst, full-time coaching clients. I have a 12-month business accelerator where I work with clients called the Hustle and Breathe Business Accelerator. Why?
Hustle and Breathe. That's awesome.
Yes. So essentially, but full-time in entrepreneurship. And, for me, started the business while doing my day job. And I remember the time that I quit, it wasn't like some, I'm going to go into the office with some cake. I quit, everyone.
Yeah. Big dramatic moment. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it wasn't any of that. It was very much like, I think it's time for me to go. And so I gave a 1 month notice. And by that time I'd been switched onto another team, had a better boss, I should say, a wonderful team of people. And I was like, I had 1 month notice, just letting you guys know. I was just wrapped up the projects, all that stuff. But it was, very much just, it's time. That's it. It wasn't any big fanfare. Just, it's time. I'm kind of not surprised. It wasn't a big fanfare because it's like when you're done, you're done. And a wedding is usually a vibrant event because it's a beginning, but a funeral is usually a very somber event because it's a loss. And I think sometimes when you're just ready for something to be done and you're moving on to the next thing, all of your energy has already been transitioned over to the new thing. So there really isn't any drama or light or there isn't really anything left to be done or talked about. It's kind of, you're already complete. Yeah.
So it can be just a very quiet, exactly. Like, I'm going to kind of just go do this other thing now. And it's been awesome or not, but I got to go.
It's been interesting. It's been interesting.
So before we let you go, tell us about your book, because there's not too many people under 30 who've been able to successfully leave corporate, love what they do, have a bomb-ass business, and are a best-selling author. So tell us about the book.
Yes. So my book is available on Amazon as an ebook. So the Solopreneur's Guide to Getting Stuff Done. It's called Finish, the Solopreneur's Guide to Getting Stuff Done. And it documents my 6-step process called Finish. That essentially I wrote this book because stemming out of all my friends throughout my life, literally since I was like 13. And I remember the first time I got that question, I was 13 years old. I was on a train station track. It was like, someone just came up to me. They're like, Vanessa, how do you do it? And I never understood what they were asking. And every single year after that, there's always been a different person in a different place, in a different setting, asking me the question, Vanessa, how do you do it? And I never quite understood what they were asking until essentially I started Your Vision's Catalyst. And I was like, oh, people are asking me this, how do I achieve things in my life? How do I, set up something and make it happen? And how do I just do that, right? How do I set out to do a book and write a book, right?
Yes.
So essentially at the end of the day, that's what that 6-step, the finish is all about, is documenting that 6 steps. So I decided, I was like, you know what? Let me actually write this book to help people get stuff done in their own life. And so that's essentially what the book is. It is my way of answering that question of how do I do it so that you can do it too for yourself. And so Finish, the first 3 parts of the project management, right? It's the planning, focus your intention, increasing your knowledge, right? Getting the resources that you need, whether it's knowledge, whatever it may be, navigating your resources in terms of understanding your time and how to balance that all. I even put worksheets in there. Nice little worksheets for people. And then the second part of Finish is ISH, and that's the self-management piece. We talked about it a lot during this podcast, right? The mindset part. Yeah. And essentially when I was writing that book, I realized that's really what the difference was, right? It was, yes, everyone could plan and stuff, but the difference was the self-management piece. And ISH, I is initiate, so literally take action. Mm-hmm. But then the S and the H, S for season your soul, and H is for hug it out. So season your soul, all about, I put tips in there about, how do you balance those thoughts? How do you, really work through those thoughts that are going to come in? That I call it the villain of doubt, Voldemort. Those that come in, how do you ensure that you...
You are a Harry Potter fan, aren't you?
Yes, how do you ensure you obliterate that? And then from there, H for hug it out. And so it's not only just internal pieces, which is the S, but it's also... Who do you have around you to support you, right? Who do you have around you to ensure that, when your mind isn't enough, you still got someone there who's going to make it happen for you, right? It's not going to be well, here's a job application for another, you can do a job. You don't have to do entrepreneurship anymore. Here's a job application. And, someone who's actually going to be no, you got this. What do you need help, et cetera, right? And so how do you ensure that you're surrounding yourself with those people who are also driven as well and can ensure that you are moving forward as well. So that's what that book is about. It's about getting you to ensure that you are getting stuff done. And it's centered around, I put a character in there, centered around someone who, has an idea for a podcast, and their friends, they tell their friends, and their friends are right. Because, they're always starting something, but never finishing. And so their friends don't believe it, but they believe in it. And so getting them to ensure that they are finishing what is it they want to get done so that they can ensure that they live their life without any regret. That's really what it's all about, ensuring that you lived your life without any shoulda, coulda, or wouldas, and you went forth in your path and you kept moving forward.
This is such an important message, especially for my audience, because they are women who are driven but distracted, and they have so many wonderful ideas, the majority of which are never going to make it to the finish line. So it's wonderful to be creative. It's wonderful to have ambition. It's wonderful to have a strong work ethic and all the drive in the world. But if you don't know how to get all the way to the winner's circle, you will most certainly have a life of regret. So I will absolutely make sure that we are linked to you in the show notes, to your book, to your website, to you on socials. They need to know who you are. And I think some of them probably need to hire you, because I bet folks who work with you take action.
Yes, they do. They do indeed. They really do. I mean, I literally just got an email yesterday from a client. We worked together. It was the end of 3 months ago. And then she just Vanessa, I just signed the client. I did. These are 6 things that she's already accomplished in her business. She's like, you know what? I lost $3K making the business happen, but then I just got a client for $5K and OMG and all this stuff. And I was like, that's how I do what I do. But yeah, so
yeah, she's all amazed, and you're like, well, yeah, sure, of course that's what's happened. That's how it works. But it's kind of I think about all the times that you were asked starting at 13, how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you do it? And it's you didn't know what they were talking about, because basically the question is, how do you be you? And so instead of saying, well, I'm sorry, there's just one of me and I'm extra special and you're all just going to have to wave as I go by and live my best life, you're like, no, seriously, I may be I may be this brilliant being and I figured this stuff out of myself, but I'm going to show you how to do it. And that's exactly the kind of person that should be a coach, a consultant, a best-selling author, because there's a lot of other people out there who would love to get there, but they need someone to take them by the hand, show them that it's possible, and show them the way. And you may be just that right person for somebody listening now, and I hope that's so. Thank you so much for being my guest. You are delightful. You are inspiring. And I think I'm going to have you come back and talk with us about something else another time.
Happy to come back. It was such a pleasure being here. And you know what? Anyone listening, keep it simple, keep it moving. You got this, and there are people here for you. So,
love it. Thanks, Vanessa.
Hey, it's Diane. Can I be honest with you? At the beginning of each new year, I always told myself, this is the year I'm going to get my habits dialed in. This is the year I'm going to be crystal clear about my goals and I'm going to crush them. This is the year I'm going to get my shit together on every level and I'm going to do it all by myself. Been there, done that, got a whole stack of t-shirts. But you know, it wasn't until I started working with my own coach that I realized what a difference it makes to have guidance, support, and accountability from someone who's not only like-minded, but like-brained. Yeah, I'm talking about another driven woman, entrepreneur, who also has ADHD and has got it going on. I have 2 openings in my signature one-on-one 12-week coaching program, and one of them might have your name on it. There's a link to a free consult with me in the show notes if you think this might be the year that you really get serious and go all in on an ADHD-friendly business and life. While you're thinking about that, have a listen to what one of my clients' success stories has to say about the difference it made to work with me.
It's funny because at first I said I would never own my own practice. And now I own my own practice. And I would say, I'm never going to take it any more than just treating patients. And now I'm thinking about how can I start my own
institute.
Yeah, exactly. Even like training other therapists, having a certification with my name that I am, I haven't thought of the name yet, but I'm certified in this technique or whatever the case may be. And really just helping other therapists help their patients the way I help mine.
You've been listening to the Driven Woman podcast with Diane Wingert. Want more straight talk and strategy each week that will take you from spinning to winning? Don't forget to hit subscribe in your podcast player so you won't miss a single episode. Then head on over to the Driven Woman free and private Facebook group community. See you there.